Pioneering Possibilities, Disability Entrepreneurs Leading Change. Hosting today is Ali Stroker, and our panelists are Andrea Levant, Kelly Brush, Tiffany Yu, and Natalia Mayara. Let's give them a hand and welcome them to the stage.
Welcome to Pioneering Possibilities. I'm Ali Stroker, and I am so excited about this conversation. When Chelsea asked me to do this, and then she told me who was going to be on this panel, my mind almost exploded. These women up here have done such important and incredible work in their industries. They have reached really high levels. And that's what gets me excited, is what does it mean to make change? What does it mean to make change and an impact on a really high level? How do I get to the top of my industry? When I was a little girl, I didn't just want to do theater, I wanted to be on Broadway. But what did that mean? How do I do that? How did I get there? And the truth was, I didn't have any role models. So this is an opportunity to hear from our role models from our community. So let's get started. I don't need to talk. You heard me talk last night. I would love for each of you to introduce yourself, and we'll just go down the line and speak a little bit about where you're from, your story, and what you do in the world.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. So I'm Kelly Brush. I am from Vermont, and that's where I live now. I was an athlete my whole life. I loved to be active and do sports. That was my favorite thing to do and how I felt like I really saw myself. When I was in college, I was a sophomore, and I was ski racing, and I fell and I hit a lift tower, and I broke my back, and I have a spinal cord injury. And I felt like my whole life was changed, and like what I loved to do was taken away from me. But when I learned I could be active, and I actually experienced that activity for the first time when I was in rehab and got on a hand cycle, it was like my eyes opened up, and I was able to understand what I actually could do, and I felt like myself again, and I felt like I could be the person I wanted to be and live the life that I always wanted to live. But at the same time, I saw how many barriers there were to getting into adaptive sports, so I wanted to change that. I wanted to allow everybody who has a spinal cord injury or any kind of disability to be able to get into adaptive sports. So I started the Kelly Brush Foundation to do that, to allow access to adaptive sports, and that's what we've been doing since 2006. So 18 years ago we started really small, and we've grown a lot. We're now giving grants and providing programs all across the United States. In all 50 states, we've given grants for adaptive sports equipment. We're giving away almost $1 million a year.
Wow.
Just in grants.
Amazing.
And we have all sorts of other programs that are designed to open up the world of adaptive sports to people with disabilities, because I know how impactful that can be for me, how impactful it was for me, and how impactful it can be for everybody else. So that's the work that I'm doing all the time now.
Amazing. So cool. Thank you for sharing. Natalia?
Hello, everybody. My name is Natalia Mayara. I'm originally from Brazil, and I moved to the U.S. in 2019. Originally in Orlando, Florida, and then now I've been living here in Santa Monica for the past 3 years or so. My story starts all the way back in Brazil. When I was 2 years old, I had an accident where I was ran over by a bus. It was pretty tough, especially because of my age. I had 2% chance survival, had to fight for my life for a really long time. My family is not very, they don't have much money. I grew up pretty poor, I would say. And they had to sell everything they had to basically afford my treatment growing up. And because of that, I ended up moving to a different state to get surgeries my whole life. I had surgeries every year from 2 all the way to when I was 16, 17 years old. And that was actually something that changed my life, because when I moved to this different state, I got introduced to adaptive sports. And when I was 12 years old, I got introduced to adaptive tennis. I fell in love with it, and I feel like that moment pivoted my entire life, because I felt like I found something that was good and something that I could do well and something that I could perform to my highest level. And I mean, a couple of years later, I became the first Paralympic athlete to represent my country in the Paralympic Games. I played London 2012 and then had the honor to play in Brazil home games in 2016, and then won 2 gold medals in the Pan American Games, which was also the first medals for my country. And I feel like I took on that role of changing the scenario of the sports for women and also young women, young female athletes in Brazil. And I feel like nowadays I just try to give back. I'm officially retired. I just try to give back through my social media, through the work I do, trying to grow the programs in Brazil. I am also working with LA 28 now, so I can also give back through the next Paralympics to be a voice from the within. And I feel like that's my passion now. That's what I like to do, is just try to push what changed my life to other people too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to start out with a brief visual description. So I'm a Taiwanese American woman with below the shoulder length black hair, and I'm wearing a bright pink blazer and a white dress. And what don't I do? So I come into this space when I was 9 years old. I was involved in a car accident. My dad was driving. He unfortunately passed away. And I permanently paralyzed one of my arms, broke a couple bones in one of my legs. So I was a temporary wheelchair user for 4 months. And much later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a mental health disability. And essentially, I think what I do is I tell people that I'm building and funding the things I wish existed when I was younger. So the thing that I spend the most of my time doing is a nonprofit organization called Diversability. It's kind of like the Rollettes. I wish the Rollettes had been around when I was 9 to be able to find community. In this case, it's a cross-disability community. But I actually started my career in investment banking at Goldman Sachs, and while I was there, kind of got introduced to some of the communities and affinity groups that they were building internally, and I saw how much value we could have building those communities outside of a corporate environment as well. I have a book coming out in 3 months that Ali has read, and also, I guess, do a lot of advocacy, not only also with LA 28, we're doing some work with them on advising them on workforce development, but turning to social media and thinking about how can we bring more money and invest more money back within the disability community as well.
Thank you so much. So great. Andrea.
Try. All right.
She's on. She's hot. She's hot.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Levant. For visual description, I'm a Black woman. I have a bob of braids that are blonde. I'm wearing a brown dress with some fun little embellishments. So I was born with my disability, spinal muscular atrophy, which is a form of muscular dystrophy. I was diagnosed around 18 months. So disability has been my life. Doesn't mean that I embraced disability for my entire life, because I didn't see anyone that looked like me in the media. And so, I grew up as a girl that was really trying to hide or even overcompensate for what I felt was a deficit, right? I felt like, disability was a bad thing. And so I did everything I could to kind of get people to not see my disability. And as I grew older, mid-20s, I moved up to the DC area to work in nonprofit. And I started to, experience barriers that were frustrating, especially in the nation's capital. I had this expectation of things being perfect, and I'd be able to get my caregiver and insurance and all of these things. And I had a moment of, frustration where I felt like, as an educated person, as one that has done all the things they tell you to do to live the American dream, and I was still having all of these struggles, that somebody needed to address it. And I think, like a lot of us, we have this moment of, if not me, then who, right? And so I was working in nonprofit at the time and decided to kind of dive in to address, like I think as we've all kind of shared, the things that I did not see, which was, how can I ensure or support disabled people being not just accepted, but that our needs can be met, and even more, that we can be seen and valued as citizens, as folks that deserve to live vibrant, robust lives. And so I started out working first for a think tank that worked on workforce development for disabled people. Then I worked for Girl Scouts for over 7 years, leading disability inclusion. And at that point, I felt like there were still some gaps, and as I was running into organizations, nonprofits, foundations, corporations, I found this consistent things where people weren't, it wasn't that they didn't want to address disability, they were afraid of, talking about it or reaching out to or connecting with disabled people. And my educational background was in public relations, and so I felt like there was this opportunity to bridge that gap. And so I decided to start a consulting firm, Levant Consulting, that is a disability-focused strategy and communication firm. And so we work on campaigns, product development, event accessibility, things like that to bridge that gap. One of our claims to fame is that we led the impact campaign for the Oscar-nominated film Crit Camp.
So good.
And so I got to have the privilege of being, the title is the first Black physically disabled woman on the Oscars red carpet. And so,
Yes.
yeah. So it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm excited to talk more about that.
Thanks so much, Ingrid. Whoa. Wow. Okay, so when we see these people sitting up here, we see an individual. However, I know, and we all know, that it takes a team in order to get to the dream. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I did. To get higher up in the industry, to make even a bigger impact, to reach more people. So when I was starting out, I thought, okay, I need to get an audition, and then I'll get the role. But there were so many people that I had to work with in order to get on stage to do the part, yeah? So I want to start, Kelly, with you, and if you don't mind giving your visual description. And I'll give mine. I am a 37-year-old woman with long blonde hair. I'm wearing a neon shirt. I use a wheelchair for mobility. So Kelly, in your journey as an athlete, as a founder of a nonprofit, who is your team? Who do you work with day to day? Who was the first person you hired to come along with you on this journey?
Well, it's such a good question, and it changes over time. So first, my physical description. I'm 38, a 38-year-old woman. I have brown hair that's just below my shoulders. I use a wheelchair that's blue, and I'm wearing a green top and black pants. So my team has morphed over the years. So when I first got hurt, I was in college, and my biggest support system were my family. They were incredibly supportive, and my teammates. So I was on a Division I ski racing team, and I had like 25 teammates that were incredibly supportive. They were the first ones who rallied around me and really supported me to help me feel like I could get back to school. I could, graduate on time. I could go to graduate school. I could do all these things that I wanted to do. And they just treated me like I was the same Kelly that I was before I got hurt. Mm-hmm. So that was the first sort of team that I had around me. Some of those people are still my best friends. One of them is my husband. Mm-hmm. My sister was on that. So it was really, really important to me to have that support early on. Now, over the years, as we've grown and changed, that support has been consistent, and it's changed over the years too. So for a long time, the Kelly Brush Foundation was really small. We held one event that we hired a contractor who helped to plan it, and then we would give out the money and we'd sit dormant, and that was it. And we were at this sort of inflection point in 2014 where we either were going to stay small or we were going to try to grow. And we decided we wanted to grow, and we hired our first full-time employee then. And it was incredible to see where we were able to take off to. So now, and at that time, I was a nurse practitioner. So I went to grad school. I was working full-time as a pediatric nurse practitioner, which I did for about 10 years. And we've grown to a place where I don't work as a nurse practitioner anymore because I spend all of my time doing Kelly Brush Foundation work. We have a team of about 10 individuals that
Wow.
run the Kelly Brush Foundation. And they are incredible. They do all the work on the ground, and it's so cool to see what they do and how they're growing our platform. And then I continue to have the personal support. So I have my family that's really, really supportive of me, and I would be nowhere without them. So I'm grateful to have that. And you're 100% right. I mean, I'm doing this work, and I'm sitting up here and talking to you all, but it would not happen without the team of support around me.
Yeah, that's so important to know. And how about you, Natalia? Who was your team while you were competing and now?
I feel like it's a little bit similar for me. My family was everything, everything. Like I told you guys, growing up, we didn't have much money, and they took the initiative of literally getting rid of everything they had just to support me growing up. They gave up their entire lives and moved to a different state just to help me to have a better life. And my family doesn't have any sports background, any.
Wow.
We don't, like, growing up, we didn't even watch sports. So that's how far away from sports I was.
Yeah.
We don't have any athletes. We don't have anybody that plays anything, even for fun. And when I told them that I wanted to be an athlete and that that was the thing I wanted to pursue for my future, they didn't hesitate once. They told me that they were supporting me and that they were going to do everything in their power to make me get where I wanted to be. And they surely did. Because playing sports sometimes can be not easy and also costly. My family used to go door to door, every business. Hey, do you want to sponsor my daughter
Wow.
to go to this tournament? Hey, can you help us cover the cost of the flights? Hey, can you help us cover this? They never, ever doubted me. They really put everything they had in the line for my dream. And I just wanted to make them proud throughout my whole journey. And as I started transitioning into a professional athlete, I feel like also the team that I had surrounding me as my coach and my team that played with me and that traveled with me were incredibly important as well, because I was barely home at that point. I was traveling like 3 weeks out of a month.
Wow.
All the time. And having that support away from home was super important. Having that person that you can count on as your coach, being someone that you can trust, someone that is going to motivate you and incentivize you no matter what happens, and trust you, but also be harsh on you sometimes, and tell you what you want to change, you have to change, and what you have to work on, because they have your best interest in mind, was extremely important for me. Especially because at that point, I feel like my coach became almost like a father figure for me.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Tiffany, who is your team? Who is your network? Who are your people that are working with you every day to do the work that you do in the world?
Yeah, so I'm going to make a little joke, which is everyone takes some commission from me.
Yeah,
So for the book
exactly.
stuff, I've got a literary agent. Those are the ones, if you want to publish a book, they go out and have the relationships with the publishers. I've got a speaking agent. I know Allie and I share the same one. They go out, make sure I know where to show up. So even for this, I looked at my email and they were like, please show up here at this time so that I can just come and do what I do, right, and not have to worry about all the logistics. And then even for content creation stuff, I have a manager that I work with who helps with all the reviewing contracts so that I can just focus on creating content, right? And I feel like for a long time, as a daughter of Asian immigrants, like, we were so scrappy growing up. I wanted to keep everything, right? But if you want to be able to grow, if you want to be able to focus on whatever your zone of genius is or your gift, it's okay to let someone else in. I feel like having a good lawyer, probably, maybe a little advanced for this group, to review contracts. But I have a little bit of a different story. So within certain East Asian cultures, having a physical disability is very taboo. The fact that my dad had passed away, someone in my immediate family passed away, people thought that my family was bad luck. The fact that a car accident happened also tied to some outdated beliefs that there was some bad luck in my lineage. And so for a long time, I didn't tell anyone about the details of the car accident. I told everyone my dad was away on a trip. I wore long sleeves all the time to hide my arm. And so I actually don't have that first level of support of the immediate family per se. And so that's why I feel like I want to advocate for and celebrate that there is this idea of a chosen family as well. That if you're not finding that support in your immediate networks, hopefully here, you're all showing up here. You can find people, we call this access intimacy, people who kind of just get it. Other people who get it that hopefully you can turn for support as well. So I will say those first couple of years felt very isolating, but I have a lot of compassion and forgiveness toward my family because this car accident wasn't just me. It was about everyone who was involved in it, and everyone kind of heals in their own way and shares as much as they feel comfortable with, and that's okay, right?
Thank you. Great. Andrea, how about you?
Yes, so I think the greatest gift that my family gave me, particularly my mother, I remember her growing up, her saying, when you're 18, I don't know where you're going to go, but you got to get out of here. And it was, as I look back, it was that she didn't have different expectations for me than she had for, my sister, or even though she told me later that she actually internally didn't know if that was possible, but she did not share her fears, with me. And so I left home when I was 18. My family has continued to be supportive, but along the way, to Tiffany's point, the disability community really helped me embrace the idea of disability pride, because as I shared, that wasn't something that I had. And so learning about folks like Judy Heumann and Ed Roberts and meeting them and having relationships with folks like that really, as a matter of fact, I think about the Oscars, and I went to the Oscars with Judy, and there's a famous actress, Angela Bassett was there, and I was looking at her from afar, and oh my goodness, I would really like to meet her, and Judy was like, don't be a pussy, go over there, and so folks like that, in the community have definitely been supportive. I have mentors, specifically Black disabled women, that have, guided me and continue to. I have a coach who is a Black female wheelchair user that supports me in business development. I have an incredible team. The Levant Consulting team is really that. The first hire that we had was when Crip Camp came on, they said that it was going to be like a 0.75 FTE position, so I thought I was going to just be doing it on the side, and quickly realized that wasn't the case. And so Sophia, who is now a lead consultant on our team, I initially asked her to come on for 15 hours for like 6 weeks, and that's been, I think she's just hit 4 years. So there are 7 of us full-time on the team that keep things going and manage our projects. We have an amazing team of contractors. We outsource HR, finances, we have a legal team, all of that. They're all really incredible, and most importantly, we started out as business friends, but now my wife, who is here, is my biggest, not just supporter, but honestly partner and visionary in us being where we are today.
Can I ask you just a follow-up to piggyback?
Yes.
How do you find these people? When you outsource and you say we outsourced HR, how do you do that? Like, where do you find those people? And where do you get the money to pay for those people?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest, I think it's a sideways answer to your question. You really have to know where your skills lie, and everybody, I think most people that know me know that I trust what I'm good at, and I also am very willing to trust other people. So in this case, when you talk about the HR, the legal, the finances, Jamie, who is my wife and business partner, is our COO, and so I'm like, my brain hurts when she starts talking to me about all of that kind of stuff. She'll sit down, like, we need to have a business meeting, and it's like, I see stars. So I think it's finding an anchor that can be your, guide and support for all of the, filling in those gaps. And so she's honestly been the one that has led the efforts of finding all of those contractors.
I love that. I think I completely agree. When I wanted to write a book, I have no idea how to write a book. So I found someone who was really good at writing middle grade novels, and we did it together. And then all of a sudden, I learned how to write a book. It's not about being an expert at every part of your industry. You have to rely on other people. So thank you all for your seeds and beautiful insight on this. Okay, next question. The future of disability, the future of our community. In your eyes, what does that look like? And what are you doing to get there? To the vision, to the place that you think we can go. Tiffany, let's start with you.
Yeah, the future. Well, isn't there a shirt that says the future's disabled?
Yes.
So I'm really passionate about something I like to call disability-centered economic justice. And essentially what that means to me is how can we ensure that in capitalism, which is what we unfortunately currently live in, disabled people can survive and thrive. And so as I think about the future, so I've been disabled for 27 years, and I know I look young, but I've been active kind of in the disability advocacy space for the last 15 years. And 15 years ago, when I told people that I was looking to start this movement around disability pride, they'd give me blank stares. They said, I don't understand how a person can be proud to be disabled. Like, how can those two words even be in the same sentence? And now, starting in 2015 and even dating back further then, like disability pride, at least within the disability community, is something we are all on our own journeys toward. And hopefully those can be, I don't know if commercialized is the right word, but hopefully we can get that those views outside of the community as well. All of that said, a couple of years ago, I heard another disability advocate say, she said, now's the best time to be disabled. Yes, there's still a lot of work to be done, and now in 2024, I think it's the best time to be disabled, and every single year I'm probably gonna say the same thing because I do think that things are getting better, and part of why I've appreciated being in this space for 15 years is that it takes time. It takes time to see change, and I think I see a lot of times, and I don't know if this is like the attention economy that we're currently living in, we get so impatient when we release our book or we release our podcast and no one's listening to it. And it's like, well, did you keep releasing them every Monday for a whole year? Because at that, then you can decide. But I kind of digressed a little bit from my economic justice thing. So essentially, my big focus is closing the disability wealth gap, and to me, that comes in terms of closing the disability employment gap. So how can we continue to have those conversations with employers about the value of disabled talent? But if we're not able to get ourselves into those employers, because I know that part is hard in itself, how can we also show our community that you can build a career just as being a creative entrepreneur? So.
And do you mind touching on your book for a moment? Tiffany is releasing a book that I had the chance to read. It is amazing. Tiffany, tell them.
Sure. And this is also where community comes in too, because I texted Allie. I think we've known each other for a couple of years.
Yes.
And I said, hey, Allie, I wrote this book. It's a little long. It's kind of long.
That's okay.
But would you be open to reading it and endorsing it? And she said, of course. And then that happened. So I wrote a book. It's called The Anti-Ableist Manifesto. If any of you have been following me, I have a social media series called the Anti-Ableism Series, which is a short-form video series to explore different ways that we can be better allies to disabled people. Now there are over 260 parts to it. If anyone here wants to be on it, let me know and we can record something really quickly. But essentially, this is also just to show you that by creating something on social media, it got the attention of someone else and they said, oh, have you thought about turning this video series into longer form text that people can enjoy? And so as I think about my own legacy and my own impact, I'm not going to be here forever. I don't mean to be morbid, but I do think about my dad a lot in terms of the urgency of my own work. I didn't mention this, but he actually passed away a day after his 49th birthday. And I think about that a lot because his legacy is in me. And in my siblings. And I've actually dedicated this book to him, even though it's not about him. But essentially, this book, very long-winded, I apologize, but this book is like that social media series in book form. So if I think about the future of disability and the impact that I want to leave behind, it's how can whoever gets a copy of this book know actionable steps that they can take in order to create more disability inclusion in the spaces that they're in.
Wow, super cool. I'm sure we're all going to support Tiffany and read the book and promote it and get it out to as many people as possible.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah,
so
please.
in your goodie bags, have you gotten the goodie bags yet, or you get them at the end? Oh, you got the goodie bags. Okay. We'll see if I can do this. So in your goodie bags, I actually commissioned a disabled artist named Jen White Johnson to create this piece of art called the Anti-Ableist Manifesto. And every statement on there actually corresponds to a chapter in the book. And so the hope is that you got the postcard form of it. You can actually buy it in a poster, but it hangs wherever you want as a conversation starter and a reminder that there's going to be something on there that resonates with you or that creates some curiosity. And then you can go read about it in the book if you want to, or go do your own research elsewhere.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Natalia, the future. I know that your journey has been super specific as you were an athlete and now you're in retirement. And I'm so curious about, after competing at such a high level, where do you want to be in the world in your retirement? What are you doing day to day? And how do you take this super high level experience and bring it into your retirement?
Well, that's a tough question because I feel like I struggled for so long to find the answer for that. Being an athlete my entire life, that was all I did. That was what I breathed every day, like 24/7, since I was 12 years old.
Right.
And I retired in 2019. And I feel like the moment that I retired, I basically lost my identity.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was without sports. I didn't know what I was good at besides sports. I didn't know what I loved, what I liked, what I wanted to do. And it felt extremely isolating at times.
Yeah.
It felt like you didn't know, like, what now? What's next? What's my future from now on? I am older than most of my peers that already have an incredible resume.
Yeah.
And my resume is I'm an athlete. And I went to college.
Yeah.
I don't have much experience. Also haven't worked in the field of what I studied for, so do I even actually like it? Am I good at office jobs, or I didn't know. So for the longest time there, I struggled a lot. I was pretty down, honestly, got a little bit depressed after retiring, and really had to fight my way back up to understand that I'm an athlete no matter what.
Yes.
Inside or outside the courts, I'm always going to be an athlete. And that was what took me so long to realize, that I don't need to be competing on the highest level to feel like I'm an athlete, to live like an athlete, and to be able to push people to understand that they can too be athletes.
Yes.
And I feel like that's my whole goal right now. That's the passion that I found after retiring, is just letting people know that this is a possibility, that fitness sports is a possibility for people with disabilities, and that you can do it regardless of how you grew up, what's your disability, what's your age, your age, your race, your age. It really doesn't matter. And I feel like that's my new passion, is being within these rooms, like this one today, to tell everybody that that's a possibility. And I've been doing that through my social media, trying to post a lot of fitness content. That's my new passion I found. It's like I go to the gym every day. When I got depressed after retiring, I gained about 50 pounds. I lost 50 pounds in the last year. going to the gym, committing to the athlete life 24/7,
Yeah.
diet, everything, just having that discipline to live
Yeah.
like an athlete 24/7, even if I'm an athlete or not. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm also trying to do my work through LA28 to be able to be again an athlete voice, to show people and to really highlight the Paralympic movement, because I feel like for so long we were on the shadows of the Olympics. And when I saw the opportunity to be that voice, especially being involved with social media within LA28, to be able to actually use that platform to be like, hey, there's also the Paralympics. Let's highlight these athletes. Let's show people what's the possibilities out there. That's my new passion, was being able to find sports and also content creation.
Yeah. Super cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love that. Kelly, with your foundation, what do you see for the future? And what are you doing? We spoke a little bit about a new platform that I'm so excited for you to share about with
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, totally. So when we started the Kelly Brush Foundation, our first program that we had was our grants program, where we would give out adaptive sports equipment. And we did that from the very beginning. One of the first years we started, that's what we were doing. And what we realized was that giving out adaptive sports equipment is incredible and so great and so impactful, but it takes a lot to get to a place where you're ready for your own equipment. So many people don't either know about adaptive sports, or if you do, you don't really know where to go to try it, or you try it once, but you don't know how to get into it in other ways. And so what we wanted to do was find a way to get that information out to everybody. And so that's what we've been developing. The last several years, we've been working on this project. It's called the Active Project.
Yes. Come on.
And it's like an all-in-one platform that has tons of information about lots of different adaptive sports. We're adding more sports all the time. And there's videos on there about what it looks like, the equipment you need, how to do it. But then it also has all this other information. So there's a map on there that people can sign up, and you can put yourself on the map. You can connect with other people so that you can find people in your community who are interested in similar things. Same with adaptive sports programs. So there's programs that are on there. So you come home and you're wanting to figure out what you can do. You can go onto that map and connect with other people that are near you. If you want to go on vacation, you can say, like, I want to go skiing somewhere. Where's there a good place to learn how to alpine ski? You can sort and find all the places in Colorado or Utah that you want to go. So there's just tons of information, and the hope is that this is going to broaden access to adaptive sports generally. And so much of this is like, adaptive sports is so incredible and it's fun to do and all of that, but we also know there are so many more benefits to adaptive sports than just the physical benefits. We know the mental benefits of it. We know the confidence that it brings. And all of these things are so important. The reasons why I find adaptive sports so important to get into and so beneficial for people with disabilities. So building the Active Project has been something we're really excited about. We launched it about a year ago, and we're adding so many new features all the time. We're adding things like forums and classifieds, so you can buy and sell adaptive sports equipment, which is a really needed resource because, anyway, we hear that all the time. So yeah, we're really excited about the Active Project and where that's going.
Where do we go to find the Active Project?
Yeah, so you can go to kellybrushfoundation.org, and there's a link right there to the Active Project.
Great. We got that, right? Okay, let's check it out. Andrea, with your work and with your vision, what do you want to do, and where do you see the disabled community going?
So, broadly, my dream is to turn on the television or go to a theater, whatever, and not be shocked that Ali Stroker is on the screen, right? Or, oh my God, so our LCI's mission is to shape the way the world reaches, views, and values disabled people. But overall, the vision is just that we're so mainstream, and growing up, my thing was pop culture. And so as much as I love running the business, honestly, from my goals, I'm a creative at heart. So I'm looking and excited about opportunities to continue to shape narratives, to work in the industry. That's why we're based in LA. Just continuing to shift the paradigm when it comes not just to disability but to intersectionality overall. All of our stories are very different based on our backgrounds, based on things beyond just disability, and so continuing to shape that and to see more of us so that we're not an outlier, but that honestly it's just the expectation, it's the rule.
Yes, please. Yes, please. So my next question for all of you, and this is a question I'm asked all the time, and I think it's one of the most important questions for this room, because I think there are people here who understand the darkest and hardest days, and what's so beautiful about disability is then the highs are so high. I always call it like the ultimate roller coaster. Like you go down, 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 and then you're way up high. And then, because it's life and we're human, you are going to go down again, and then you're going to come back up. So for all of you, I assume, since you're human, that you have been in those really hard, dark moments. And I just want to ask you, on those days, in those moments of depression, and what do you do? How do you show up? How do you get out of those places to show up as a boss once again in your life, in your career, in your industry? I want to start with you.
Building a team, it really makes you internally reflective. And I was sending a message to a staff member this morning because she was having some health challenges and waited to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And Tiffany talked about capitalism and this idea of productivity and and proving your work and all of that. And so I've had to get to the place, and even more so as a leader, of the embracing of just existence. There's another shirt that says our existence is resistance. And so creating space on those hard days to just be, to feel the feelings, to be honest. One of our big things is we have unlimited sick days because often, I was like, how can I tell disabled people when to be sick or when to have a mental health, have a day where you needed a mental health break. Those are things that I think are really important. And so for me, it is, I remember Crip Camp was so hard. We were so high on top, and I was going through the worst of anxiety attacks that I ever had because these expectations felt so big. And so Jamie, I remember one day her canceling my schedule, and we were living in Arizona at the time, and we drove up to Sedona and
Yes.
just like looked at the mountains all day,
Yes.
So creating that space to exist and to cancel and to say the most powerful word, which is no, those have been, I think, my biggest takeaways.
I love that, Andre.
now.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you. Kel?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things for me, and one of the things that I always focus on is focusing on what I can do and not what I can't do. So I know that's one of those things that's like sounds a little bit cliche, but especially in those moments when things are hard, right? Like not everything's going to go well. Things are going to be frustrating. Something's going to go wrong. And you're going to get those moments when you're down and it's like, you're just sort of wallowing and man, this sucks. And then it's like, all right, let's think about one thing that's good. What is one thing that I can do rather than thinking about the thing that I can't do, or one thing that's going to go well or that is going well. And just having that be a practice that I do all the time makes it easier to do when things are harder. So So that's one that I really focus on and I've done forever. I think even probably before I got hurt, though I was doing it unconsciously then, and it's much more conscious now. The other thing for me is moving my body. I mean, I know when I am in a funk for whatever reason, if I can get outside and go for a bike ride, or if I can go skiing, or do something, that is 100% going to turn things around for me, and so I love doing that. It's not always possible, obviously, but like, moving my body is a huge part of that for me,
Love it.
for sure.
That's great.
For me, I feel like there's two things that I try to focus on, and the first one is what we talked earlier, is having a support system.
Yep.
So having a support system, having my family, my friends surround me, being able to reach out to the people that understands how you feel and that supports you no matter what is always so important to me. When I was struggling with mental health, I feel like my best friend was one of my biggest supporters. Like when I was having, I don't know, like a panic attack or something like that, she would just put me in her car, drive around the city, try to calm me down and tell me that everything was okay. And I feel like lately the other thing that I learned to utilize more is also discipline. I feel like sometimes you're in a dark time, you're down, you're sad, you don't want to do anything. But having the discipline to still put yourself out there, oh, I'm down, but I'm still going to go to the gym. I'm down, but I still have to show up in the court every day. I feel down, but I still have to go to work. And having the discipline to commit to that and do that no matter what, I feel like has been an incredible, pivotal decision for me, because I feel like through doing that, I'm exposing myself to so many other things that help me throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I'm down, but I still have to go to the gym no matter what. I go to the gym and I feel better, and I talk to people, and I meet someone, and I exercise, and I feel like just being able to push myself that way whenever possible, of course, has been a game changer for me. And I feel like that's a lesson that I learned like so recently.
I love that. I think it's like what I observe in athletes is it takes a lot of discipline, and in some way, having a disability is a little like being an athlete. So I think, coming away from this panel, thinking about tonight or tomorrow when you get home, like what kind of discipline do I need in my life to get to where I need to go? And it may not look like going to the gym, but it may mean I need to meditate for 5 minutes every morning. This is my routine. I need to drink a glass of water and a cup of coffee and get dressed and show up, even if it's into another room, for work.
Yeah.
We're all at work every day. Having a disability is not a joke. It's the real deal. But you're all made for it. You all can do it. You're all doing it. And you're showing up in your lives here at Rollettes, in my opinion, at your best. Tiffany, how about you? What are you doing on those really tough days?
Yeah, I would just want to echo what everyone else has said, and I'm just going to share three like concrete things, and maybe they'll work for you, and maybe they won't, and that's okay, right? You have to figure out what are the things that work for you. So, number one, if you don't have your safe people that you can vent to, I've been doing this thing called rage journaling. Rage as in R-A-G-E. So you're really feeling stressed out or sad. And I hate it when people tell me to go journal, but I did start rage journaling because what I used to do is I would go to social media and I would start like, or I would message people I should not be messaging, or I would send an angry email to someone and then just send it to myself, Don't send it to that person, just send it to yourself. So you have to get the energy out, right? So that's number one. Number two is a playlist on Spotify called Mood Booster.
Yes.
The Mood Booster playlist.
Yes.
Does anyone else? It's like a blue icon with someone blowing some bubble gum. I listen to it every morning when I take a shower. And then the last thing I'll share, sponsored, not sponsored, is this wearable bracelet called Apollo Neuro. And they have branded themselves as a hug for your nervous system. And essentially, and it's not a wearable as in it's not tracking anything, and it's a little bit pricey, but contact me and maybe I can get you a discount. But essentially, it's just a band that you wear on your wrist or on your ankle that sends vibrations, and they have different modes. So it's most well known for its sleep mode. So once I turn it on, I'll like fall asleep right away because it just matches the vibrations to like how you fall asleep. But they also have one called high stress mode, and you can turn it from like 5% to 100%. So anyway, so if I'm in one of my modes, I'll turn it on, and for those who can't just sit still and meditate, I can't. It's just something that is there that is actually sending vibrations to your body to try and regulate your body.
I love that. Thank you so much. So we have a few questions from the audience that have been submitted. So I want to go and ask each of you one of these. We'll start with you, Natalia. This is from someone in the crowd. How have you navigated being a disabled woman in the athletic community? And do you have any advice for those who have aspirations of becoming a Paralympic athlete?
Oh, nice. I like that. I like the
Yeah,
aspiration.
good question.
Well, to be very honest with you, it was a little bit tough because, first of all, I was the youngest female playing and pretty much almost the only girl playing. So sports sometimes, I feel like that's changing now, but sports sometimes can be such a masculine world where it's basically like all the people that I had surround me were guys. Like all the athletes that were playing were guys, and I was one of the first female playing for my country. And at times that was really hard because I felt like I didn't have anybody to look up to.
Yeah.
I didn't have a role model. I didn't have a mentor pretty much to hold my hand and be like, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And I had to find my own way. And not just that, but like Callie said, sometimes it's incredibly hard to have access to sports. As a person with disability, sometimes you don't even know if you could play sports.
Right.
That was me. I got introduced to adaptive sports randomly by someone on the street that asked, have you ever tried this? And I was like, what is this?
Wow.
So that's also why your work is incredibly important, because if it wasn't for projects like yours, I wouldn't be here today. And that was tough to navigate growing up because my family didn't know what I was capable of. They didn't know that I could play sports, and I was just a kid, so you basically count on them to get started. And then when I got started, I started competing basically against people with no disabilities, which was pretty tough. And also, you can't help but question yourself, am I good enough to compete against these people? Because I'm the only disabled person here.
Right.
And it's so easy to have so many self-doubts when you have a disability, especially in the sports world, or honestly a daily basis, work, for anything. That was something that I had to really fight, but I feel like that experience helped me a lot because I saw that I was capable of doing anything that I wanted to do and that I could just really work for it. And I just tried to be a trailblazer and start my own thing and really be the person that I wanted to have when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Be the role model that I wanted, be that person that holds somebody's hands. I wanted to be that person for whoever was coming next.
Yes.
And that was what I worked for like my entire career. And now in Brazil, we have a whole women program. We have girls playing the Grand Slams. We have girls traveling the world, youth players, everything. That I got goosebumps talking about that because I feel like that is my biggest pride, even more than like playing the Paralympics, even more than all the titles that I've ever got. And advice for someone that is being a Paralympian as an aspiration is don't give up. It will be a really wild journey, but very rewarding. I feel like everybody here knows like being a person with disability is not always easy, and this is also not going to be easy. You have to really want it, and you have to really commit to whatever you want. And I feel like that was what I learned the most in my journey, is like really committing to that dream and sticking to it no matter what, no matter losing, winning, not being able to go to practice. I really had to stick to it and had that as a goal. And also being places like this where you're surrounded by people that are like you and that have a like-minded situation, and where you can like bounce off of each other and have that support system around you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Kelly, you changed careers. You were a nurse, and then you decided to go full out with your foundation. How do you find people who are going to support your changes on your path?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, so for me, I had my accident, I was in college. One of my big goals was to just live the life that I always wanted to live. I started the Kelly Brush Foundation. We had all this momentum and we were doing such great things, but like, I also wanted to be a nurse practitioner. That's what I'd always wanted to do. And so I went and I found that, and I worked full time, like I said, for 10 years. And during that time, I worked for 10 years, and towards the end, I was spending more time with KBF as we were growing. And it was a really hard decision for me to decide to leave nursing and to do KBF full time, because I loved that part of me, and I felt like that was such a huge part of who I was, that I was able to have, I always called it was like my alter ego. I had like these two different parts of my
Cool.
life. And people would like come into my office who I would see, and they'd be like, "Are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." They know me through my
Oh,
foundation too,
cool.
so it was very cool. But I think during that time, building the support we talked about before, was so important to be able to have people who supported me for what I was doing. So we have a board of directors at the Kelly Brush Foundation that helps to direct where we're going and helps in so many ways. And I think having the support of them to do what it was that I wanted to do. If I wanted to put more time into KBF, then they were really supportive for that. So I think that was the biggest thing for me is being able to be clear with myself, to know what it was I wanted, and when it was time to really sort of throw myself into this and make sure that we can make the Kelly Brush Foundation all it can be, as well as having people who are supporting me and backing me in that, and while I miss my career in nursing, I know it's always there and I can go back to it at some point.
Yeah.
But I really love what we're doing now.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Andre, question for you from the audience.
Okay.
When you feel like progress has slowed or hit a plateau, what are ways or methods to build momentum again?
Ooh, that's a good question.
These
You
were
feel like
good
progress has
questions.
slowed. I think one of my favorite things is innovation. It is, oftentimes we kind of sit in the present, and I'm always trying to think, ahead. So even if it looks like things are slow, it's always what's essentially the next idea, and having people on your team, having a brain trust, if you will, that you can come together and dream. I think for me, having the space to dream is huge, and that's why having a team is incredible, because it's really important to have some folks that are keeping the wheels turning, keeping the business going. Particularly if you're one that is like a visionary, where you can be moving ahead and thinking ahead and planning ahead, and then having someone beside you that can help you strategize and plan ahead for that dream. So for me, it's always just thinking ahead, having ideas. I mean, I'm living presently in things that I said a decade ago. I remember I have a list of declarations that I think are from 2015, and I remember saying, I read it to my team a couple of years ago. It was like, I will have a team, or I'll be running a company where people love what they do and love working for me. And I was like working at the Girl Scouts at some, mid-level job at the time. I had no idea, and so I think, speaking those things, having your own vision, then keeps you ahead. So although I'm living in that right now, I'm also, thinking and speaking whatever the next thing is. So I think that's really important.
I love that. Thank you. I love the list of declarations.
Yes.
I think we can all put those up on our mirror or in our bedroom at home. And Tiffany, you're going to be our final question, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay. For someone, this is a question from the audience. For someone new in the entrepreneurial world, how do you get started and see positive growth? You've worked in finance, you now have your own, brand and business. How do we get started?
So my journey is I stumbled a little. So let me just share that I actually started Diversability as a side project while I was still working full time. So one of the things that I actually really appreciated about that was that there wasn't so much pressure to try to figure out how to make it work because I still had my full-time income. And only until I felt like that was generating enough where I could figure out how to support myself did I end up pivoting. But I will also share, because I feel like we don't talk about this enough, in 2017, I had a job working at a startup, and I actually ended up getting fired after 6 months. And I want to bring that up because I think people look at us and they think we're like good at everything, like Paralympic athletes and on the Oscars red carpet and Tony Award winners. But there's also stuff we're not good at. So I was not good at that job. What?
A lot of them.
A lot of stuff we're not good at. So I'm a big fan of just testing the waters a little bit, but just making sure, especially if you are in a full-time role, and Kelly, it sounds like you were doing the nurse thing, and then KBF ended up gaining a lot of momentum while it was still a side thing. Being able to and we're so good at this as disabled people, having the plan B, C, D, all the way to even AA, because we have even more than 26 backup plans. I think, and then even now, I would consider myself a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. There's not just one place that I'm going. And again, as disabled people, we know how to do this really well too, is just figuring out, okay, if the thing that you're doing that you love doing isn't generating the type of income that you want, maybe there's something else that you can be doing on the side that's really valuable, and all of those things together will kind of create this colorful, beautiful life. And then one other thing I'll add, which we also know very well, is being disabled is very isolating. Being an entrepreneur is also extremely isolating. So being able to find those communities and those support systems early on to make it a little bit less lonely is going to be helpful.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany, so much. There was a question submitted for me that I just want to touch on about my thoughts on our responsibility to young people or people that have been recently injured. And I sort of want to open this up to everybody here. Someone is looking up to every single one of you. Here, outside of Rollettes, we do have a responsibility to be accountable for our community and the next generation coming up, and to each other. I can't tell you, I'm here at Rollettes. I haven't felt this motivated in so long. It's because of all of you. You are all showing up in your authentic self and at your best self. And I try to do that every single day. And I just want to also put out there that every single person on this stage wants to help you. If you have questions, if you want to get started in your field, reach out. Talk to them. Even if you don't get a chance here at Rollettes, we're all online. I mean, that's what's one of the beautiful parts of this community. We can be in touch. So my thoughts on, being responsible, I said this, and we're gonna loop in Aerie, because Aerie sponsored this conversation. When I was an Aerie role model, my quote was, be the role model that you needed to see as a kid. And that's how I try to show up every day in my life. I am so honored to have had this opportunity to talk to all of you today. Thank you, Aerie. Thank you to our ASL interpreters for being here, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thanks for showing up this morning. We love you guys. Please give one more hand to our amazing panelists. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. you.
Give it up one more time for our panelists for Pioneering Possibilities.